Hey y'all, so if you are not a member of my Patreon and would like to support my content, go ahead and click my Patreon link below, become a member today. Also, you can get one of these statement pieces that is well overdue, okay? Entertainers are not leaders. They are not. And we're actually going to talk about that today. So, all right, y'all. Oh, and you can find that t-shirt below in my Teespring link to my store. So let's talk about this. So I know a lot of you, as you've been stuck home in lockdown, quarantine, whatever you may call it, a lot of you have been watching this documentary about Jordan's final days in the NBA, The Last Dance. Well, most recently, uh, last night, Obama was featured, and he goes on to throw a little subtle shade about Jordan not playing a bigger role, right, in social activism. So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at this. I'm gonna keep you caught up a little bit so you kind of know what's going on and some backstory, and then we'll talk about it. And you know, when I'm grinning like this, we're gonna talk about it. All right, so this is according to SBCRod.com. The Last Dance, Barack Obama weighs in on Michael Jordan, saying Republicans buy sneakers too. Among the more notable off-the-court legacies Michael Jordan left behind in his playing days came from the Sam Smith's book, The Jordan Rules. In it, Jordan is attributed with saying Republicans buy sneakers too in the context of his unwillingness to get involved in social activism. Jordan addresses this quote in an episode of The Last Dance, and it's contextualized in his decision not to endorse Black North Carolina Democratic Harvard Nat in his 1990 Senate race against the then incumbent Republican Jesse Helms. There are multiple knowledgeable individuals who speak on the situation and what it meant in the bigger picture, but let's focus on two people, Jordan and former President Barack Obama. Jordan, for his part, admitted to using the quote, but added the caveat that it was not said in jest on a team bus among teammates. The Bulls legend adds that he was more interested in the legacy he had on the court than off of it. And he was fine with people disagreeing with his viewpoint on political inaction. Okay, he's fine with it. Obama tried to give Jordan some slack, ultimately saying that the player is likely any prominent black celebrity in America, where the love received is inversely proportional to the person's dedication to broader issues of social justice. That being said, the former president was apparently not okay with the lack of endorsement at the time that this all happened. Though when critiquing Jordan, he's not so heavy-handed. And so let me show y'all, basically, I'll show y'all here his comments.
Michael said, Republicans buy sneakers too. For somebody who was at that time preparing for a career in civil rights law and in public life and knowing what Jesse Helms stood for, you would have wanted to see Michael push harder on that. On the other hand, he was still trying to figure out, how am I managing this image that has been created around me, and how do I live up to it?
All right, so y'all see that. So what Obama is referring to is Helms being one of the last open segregationists on Capitol Hill during his time as senator, who, in opposing the civil rights, called it the single most dangerous piece of legislation ever introduced in the Congress. Jordan did not openly endorse the man opposing Helms, while Obama apparently did back in the day. Helms would go on to win the 1990 election by a 53-47 margin. All right, Obama. Let's start with the fact that it's just so telling, and it's just so interesting, right? That Obama's running mate, Obama's VP, was opposed to busing. Not only was he opposed to busing, he's literally been alluded to as a segregationist. Most recently, just here within the last few months, as Kamala Harris, as he's running for 2020. Kamala Harris goes on the national debate stage and basically calls the man a segregationist to his face. Okay? So let's start with a little of the hypocrisy there. All right? And don't even get me started on just the impact that Joe Biden, things like the crime bill and stuff like that has had, the type of impact it's actually had on the Black community. Okay, let's start there. Number two, it sounds like to me that Obama was expecting Jordan to have some type of impact that he couldn't even have in his 8 years on Capitol Hill. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but what specific needle did Obama move, or what impact did Obama have in terms of civil rights during his time in office, other than the fact that he basically solidified civil rights as a pot that all others, all minorities can be thrown into to oftentimes be moved ahead of the people that the legislation was actually written for. That's number two. Number three, let's just admit the fact that people don't actually care for Black men's opinions unless that opinion walks a very fine line and is in line with what they feel is acceptable and approved. Right? We've seen this recently. We've seen this with Boosie. We've seen this with Kanye West. We've seen this with T.I. We've seen this with Snoop Dogg, okay? And a lot of times you either have to have the attitude of I don't care, I'm independent, I do my own thing, like Kanye West and Boosie, or if your money is on the line, if your jobs, your reputation, your relation to other people in the industry, they'll get you on the phone and pull those reins back in and have you at the red table talk apologizing for what you're saying. So let's stop this idea of we just want people's authentic opinion, because another I'm not gonna take it too far because there's some conversations y'all probably just not ready for. But a conversation that hasn't been had enough is some of the negative and adverse impacts of the civil rights movement. Okay, I just already talked about how some groups of others being thrown ahead of who the legislation was actually made for, but a discussion that is oftentimes not had is how these schools are more segregated back when they were in freaking 1968. Okay, all of the ownership in Black communities that was lost after civil rights and desegregation. And I'm not gonna get into I'm not gonna take y'all too far today. Okay, we'll save that maybe for one of my lives where I can delve a little deeper into that. But this is certainly not me taking up for Jesse Helms. I mean, I wasn't around during that time anyway, so I can only say in hindsight and kind of looking back on these things. And yes, Jesse Helms obviously said some very ugly things, right? But when it comes to actual legislation and the impact of these things, are we really weighing them and talking about them if we're not also talking about some of the negative impacts, the adverse impacts, and the role that the government plays by thinking they can legislate everything? But I ain't gonna get too far off track. But anyway, so yeah, can we normalize the fact that entertainers are not leaders? Can we do that? Can we normalize the fact that entertainers don't have to have an opinion. Entertainers don't have to speak on everything. Not in a sense of leading people somewhere, like Black people are infantile and the actual political leaders, okay, the people that study policy, study sociology, study how these things impact and affect us, shouldn't have the, well, shoot, it's iffy sometimes these days. But listen, okay, let's just normalize the fact that entertainers don't have to be social activists. I've already talked about how oftentimes their opinions, just being logical, are not reflective. We're talking about billionaires and millionaires whose opinions are not always reflective of Black, middle, and lower class America. Also, let's accept the fact that you've had so many celebrities and entertainers that have used social activism as grifting. They have used it as opportunities to only advance their careers, and they don't actually stand for these actual principles in their real everyday lives. These are a couple of things that we need to think about and accept. So no, I'm not offended by Michael Jordan not being a social activist. I don't think most people are. I don't think if most people were, they would even be watching the documentary in the numbers that they are. Jordan is solidified for his career on the court, and that's what he wanted. Okay. Not only that, Jordan has done a lot of things behind the scenes and with his charities and everything else he has going on. So this fact that there's only one way to be influenced or to help the world or even to help the Black community, can we just move past that? I mean, but those are my thoughts. Leave your thoughts below. Don't forget to get your entertainers are not leaders t-shirts. Bye.